Cosplay Stitch and Seam. I'm Pannon.
And I'm Mercedes, aka V-Fire. I still haven't decided on.
AKA.
All that.
How's it going? We've had kind of a break where we've done some, short mini-sodes, done some interviews and things like that.
A lot of fun things.
I haven't seen you, in the flesh for a bit.
No, we both had this, big old splurge of conventions where it's we'll meet this next weekend. No, I'm at a convention. Oh, well, how about the one after? I'm at another convention.
I'm at a convention now.
Yep.
So we hope you guys enjoyed those. Kindly let us know what you think, and you can also, it's a good time to bring up our means of contact. You can hit us up on our email at cosplaystitchandseam@gmail.com.
Or you can go to the website, cosplaystitchandseam.com, and send us your horror stories, your topic suggestions, say hello, advice.
Say hi. We've also got a Facebook group. Just look for Cosplay Stitch and Seam on Facebook. Let us know what you thought of the new episodes, if you think that's something we should continue, if you were bored to tears, or if maybe you want to add something to the interviews that we did.
Feedback is always welcome.
Cool. Yeah. What are some of the next cons we'll be at?
I will be at Salt Lake Gaming Con, but I don't know if this is going to be out, actually, in that time.
Yeah. We're going to go to Salt Lake Gaming Con. I'm going to be at Anime Expo. They're the same weekend, yeah?
Yes. This might be released after we're at those. But after July, I think my only next thing is Anime Bonsai.
Ooh, Bonsai.
And ToshoCon.
Oh yeah, ToshoCon's coming up in August.
Yeah.
Cool. That's mostly for all you locals in Utah. There's one in Layton, Anime Bonsai, that's in October, and ToshoCon is in August in Salt Lake City. And Gaming Con is
also
going to be already gone.
In the past, I went to it, I had fun, I'm assuming.
Saw some amazing costumes.
It was so amazing, jaw-dropping.
I will be really disappointed if I don't see amazing costumes.
Oh my gosh.
So, you may have noticed from one of our short interview minisodes that we did cosplay is not consent as our topic. So this week we actually wanted to go a little more in depth and talk about what the movement is, different experiences people have had in that regard, and ways that you can help make it less of an issue in your community. So, yeah. Anything you want to add before we start?
Go ahead.
Cool. So I did a little bit of research on the topic just because...
Oh. Yeah, we want to talk about cosplay is not consent, as well as online bullying, because those can go very hand in hand.
For sure. So, first of all, what is it? I actually went to the group that started the Cosplay is not consent movement, which is Cosplay Deviant.
Yes.
And they have a whole write-up on it, but word for word from their website says, the idea is a simple one. The culture of cosplay is one of fun, creativity, and mutual respect. Unfortunately, we saw a lack of the respect part at conventions around the world, so we decided to start working with the fans and conventions to create programs, educational panels, and policies to help protect and react to unwanted behavior. Cosplay is not consent. Despite what you're wearing, no fan should accept inappropriate behavior from their peers.
I really appreciate Cosplay Deviants, making that a movement, going out of their way to educate on that, because one would think that inappropriately touching another human being, regardless of what they're wearing, is wrong. It would be common sense, but some people don't. And also, within the nerd community, we are a very awkward crowd, and socially awkward in a lot of ways, because we are nerds. And that kind of comes with a certain, expectation in a way with it, but also it's good to be educating and being here's what's right, here's what's wrong, especially if you're someone who doesn't get out much and maybe doesn't understand that.
Fair.
And I think they do it in a very polite way of educating it.
Yeah.
So.
Most of their stuff is really simply worded, so it's easy to understand, and I don't know, I just liked how straightforward it all was. So that's the basic idea behind Cosplay is not consent. And it did, in fact, come from Cosplay Deviants, which unfortunately is not surprising because of how many cosplayers who cosplay like promiscuous characters or more sexy cosplay are usually the first ones to come under fire with that kind of harassment, that kind of assault. So they are like the ones really being hurt by this the most. And a lot of people will say like, well, just wear something else, things like that. And I mean, that in some ways, maybe it'll solve a problem, but it's not the root of the problem. The root of the problem is the behaviors. I mean, cosplay, people want to be able to create these beautiful things. They want to be able to build something that appeals to them. And whether or not it's sexy or promiscuous, that is not our place to judge. You know, it doesn't matter what you're wearing. You should still be treated like a human being.
Yes.
Like, I will love a character, and that's why I cosplay them, and sometimes it's sexy and sometimes it's not, and it shouldn't change how people treat me as a human being.
I'm gonna be really frank, like, for a second. Like,
Do it.
if someone is dressed, no matter how they are dressed, if you're seeing, like, oh, that person has their belly exposed, or...
How dare.
Or their cleavage is out, or, like, you know, shirtless manly man, or whatever.
Appalling.
It's like... If you feel like you have to treat someone differently because of that you have to treat them like dirt or to touch them inappropriately, you're really messed up. I'm just, like, gonna put that out there.
Yeah.
Like, you should treat those kinds of people with respect, even though you don't agree with what they're wearing. Or you do agree with what they're wearing, but you really want to touch. You still need to respect and not touch.
Would you go to a public pool and go around touching people just because they're dressed, like, in less clothing than in normal public situations? Of course not. That would be creepy and weird, and it's still creepy and weird to do at a convention, so don't do it.
Don't do it! And being respectful and nice gets you a way better experience with those kinds of people, and, like, you know, it just makes it a better all-around. Be nice. Golden rule. Be nice.
Right. It just makes me so upset when people will blame it on the clothing. The clothing has nothing to do with it. It's the attitude of the people around. Yep. Like, whatever is making you think that's okay, it's not okay. You know? Like, even at a Disney park, if someone's dressed as a Disney princess, you're not going to, like, touch them inappropriately because it's a, like, character that you love. Like, why are you doing it to these cosplayers?
Exactly.
Anyway, getting some 1,000-yard stare from our peanut gallery over.
I'm just imagining Disney princesses and the headspace you have to be in to inappropriately touch a Disney princess.
Yeah. Right. And, you know, Cosplay is Not Consent also said, let's face it, whether you're creating a costume that is sexy, elaborate, colorful, or all of the above, cosplay is designed to attract attention. It's meant to celebrate being a fan by making the fictional seem fantastically real. Attention, though, does not grant consent to act inappropriately. I really liked how concise and, like, to the point that was.
It's very well worded.
But as Mercedes touched on earlier, bullying is also a huge part of it. It's not just about sexual harassment or sexual assault. I mean, those are huge problems, and I'm not belittling any of those, but there's also a huge issue with bullying, a little bit more online, but sometimes in person as well.
Yes.
It's not limited to sexual commentary. Cosplay is not consent also means, like, leaving comments about a cosplayer's body type, their skin color, or whether or not they match a cosplayer's gender identity. Like, none of those... Even
down to skill level as well, of, like, if you're crafting it.
Yeah.
Whether you crafted it or didn't craft it. Some people get really nitpicky about that as well. And so when I was at Pop Culture Convention, it's a little tiny convention here in Utah. I loved it. I had a ton of fun at it. I actually had someone come up to me. Oh, his name escapes me. I'll remember it later. One of the guys who runs Cosplay Utah brought this young man over to me, and he's like, this person here has been having a hard time. He's been bullied online every time he makes a cosplay, and he really wants to get into cosplay, but he's having a hard time with it because he's, you know, he's not white, he's not, you know, because, like, it's hard to say these kind of things. Because like, he's just getting bullied online.
Mm-hmm.
His craftsmanship is still very beginner, but he wants to make his stuff, and he just felt very discouraged. And I don't want to see that in our community. I want to see people encouraging each other. And I was really glad to see that like someone who was running the Cosplay Utah Facebook group was like, here, let's have you meet other people who are positive influences and help encourage you. And I sat down with him and I was like, here, let me introduce you to some people. And I started introducing him to like all the different cosplayers that were coming by. And I had him show me his work that he's working on. And like, it's great work. It's, you know, he's learning, he's making new things, he's having fun with it. But some people online are like, your skin color is wrong. Your craftsmanship is really bad, that you shouldn't make that, your helmet's too big, and it's like, there's nothing wrong with what he's doing, he's still learning, and it shouldn't be cruel and mean things being said to him. It should be encouragement, and hey, maybe the helmet's a little too big, why don't you try this next time, instead of just your helmet's too big, just rude feedback. So knowing how to give feedback and constructive criticism is very helpful, and sometimes it's best not to give any unless the person is actually asking for it. Yes. A lot of times we just share photos because we're proud of what we made and we don't want people to nitpick it. I mean, I'll share stuff. I'll be like, hey, guys, I want your advice. What could I do better on this? And I'll ask for it. But sometimes I'm like, look at this cool thing I made. And then someone's like, you have back fat. I've been told I have back fat. You know what? It's my back fat, and I love it, so deal with it.
It's okay. I've been told my all of me is fat. So. It's okay.
By the way, if any of you are getting bullied, let me know. I get bored after 5 minutes of trolling the trolls back, but I will troll them for you for 5 minutes.
I'll literally fight them in a parking lot.
Melissa says she will fight them in a parking lot.
Yeah,
literally.
No, I definitely agree. Like, the only time we should be judging one another's craftsmanship is if they're asking for constructive feedback or if they are in a contest. Otherwise, it's really none of your business to be, like, picking someone's costume apart. I don't care if their wig is slightly off color. I don't care if they picked the wrong fabric according to you. Like, I don't care if, like, and especially things that they can't help at all, things that they were born with, like their skin color, their height, their weight. Like, you can't just tell someone that they can't do something because of how they look.
The skin color one always cracks me up because I'm like, you know, all these are Asian characters, right? Especially when they're cosplaying from anime. It's like, that is an Asian character.
Stop it.
Stop.
Let people have fun. Yes. Why are you crapping on other people's fun?
Yes. On that note, with the social media, so I see a lot, I'm in a couple of groups that are like social media promotion kind of cosplay groups, and I usually see every now and then a question will pop up of, what do I do when someone is being a troll or just commenting rudely on a bunch of their pictures and whatnot? And my response to that is just have a zero tolerance policy. They're not your audience. If they're just there to tell you that you're fat or to tell you that you're wrong, then block them. They're not your audience. Yes, what they're doing is cruel. They're not there to help you. And so block them. I've done that to a dozen people so far, where they've come and commented on, I had a picture of myself in my Aloy cosplay. I was just smiling. My midriff wasn't even showing in it, because I was wearing the tummy exposing armor. And someone commented hooker, and I was like, okay. And I thought for a second, I was like, man, why? Like, okay. And so I just blocked him. I mean, I could have engaged. I could have been like, why did you call me this? And it could have been this back and forth thing. No, I just like, well, good for you. Goodbye. Not my audience. I'm okay losing a dozen or so followers that, that I have personally blocked because they're not my audience. The people who do comment and give me constructive criticism to just general feedback and actually engage in my posts, those are the ones that I'm there for. Forget the other people. I know that can be hard for people to decide on as well.
Yeah, it's definitely hard. And I think it can be really confusing too when you get into like the sexier cosplays, because the comments, like, you might get one or two that are like, oh, that's sexy, and like, or oh, nice job, you look really pretty, things like that aren't like bad, And then you get some that are, like, more commenting on the cosplayer's body, or, like, they get increasingly more lurid comments, you know? And so they don't know where to necessarily draw a line.
Yeah. I had one where we actually had, like, these very good and engaging conversations back and forth. I actually really enjoyed it. A lot of it just talking about, like, how did you make this? How much work went into that? What can I do to try starting this? And it was really cool, like, going back and forth. And then he asked a very, very inappropriate question. And I replied, I have a zero tolerance policy for this. Because you and I have been talking for so long, I will give you a second chance. But that's all you're gonna get. Because again, I just don't tolerate that. It's not my jam. It makes me feel horrible. And also it doesn't help at all. And he immediately lost that second chance.
Oh boy.
And so I've just blocked him.
Yeah, I think a good rule of thumb is to go by, like, how the comment personally makes you feel.
Yes.
If it's a comment that makes you feel uncomfortable, you don't have to justify that to anyone.
Nope.
Like, that zero tolerance policy is whatever makes you feel comfortable. If someone saying something about your body makes you uncomfortable, you don't have to be okay with it, you know?
Call me hooker. Bye, Felicia.
Goodbye. Yeah. I was gonna run over some numbers with this, because I actually found a few articles on, like, how often people, like, actually report stuff versus, like, how often it happens and things like that. So according to a 2016 study from Janella Aselin, and it was also reported on Geeks Media, out of 3,600 responses to an online form from those who attended San Diego Comic-Con, 13% of the attendees reported unwanted comments, and 8% reported having been groped, assaulted, or worse. Yet, only 8 cases were reported. So, if we're looking at, like, San Diego Comic-Con as a whole, who gets, like, over 100,000 people, if almost 10% of them are reporting that incidents have happened, that's, what, like 10,000 people?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
At least.
That's a ton. That's a ton, but only 8 cases were reported. Like, the more we can, like, support each other and let, like, it's a complicated topic, but, like...
Yeah, well, it's like, even in, like, within the workplace, that can be something hard to report.
Definitely.
And that's why, like, if you remember, like, I mean, most workplaces have training on sexual harassment and how to report it and whatnot. And it usually has very good advice on what sexual harassment is and how to address it and whatnot. Never feel afraid to report it.
Right. The biggest fear people say when they, like, why they haven't, when they haven't reported, is that people aren't going to believe them. And, I mean, in my own experience, unfortunately, I've found that, like, that can happen. But the people who aren't listening are, like, the people we need to be, like, rioting against, you know? The changes we need to make is... Because this kind of stuff needs to be listened to. And if you have friends who this has happened to, please be their support. Like,
yes,
tell them to report. Help them, you know, believe in them.
That's very important.
For sure. So the last thing I kind of wanted to touch on with this was, what can we do? Because, like, clearly it's been an issue. It's been a problem. I actually felt really good about interviewing cosplayers at the last couple conventions I went to, because, like, even though I interviewed people starting at, like, 12 to 14 and going up into, like, their 30s, like, people knew about the movement Cosplay is Not Consent. They knew what it meant. Most of them felt safer in the conventions they were attending. And I'm not saying that the problem is solved or anything like that, but, like, we still need to be getting the word out, explaining to people what it means, and making sure that people know that they can report things if they need to, you know?
Yes.
I really appreciate Cosplay Deviants, because they go out of their way to do like instructional panels. They have policies that they will send people. They on their website they list conventions that are, like, in compliance with Cosplay is Not Consent officially, things like that. So I don't know. What do you think? What can we do?
I think the biggest thing is always remember to be respectful.
Mm-hmm.
If it happens to you, report it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and it can be very scary and very difficult, and I completely understand that, having been in that situation myself. It can be frightening, but get someone who supports you, have them go with you to make the report.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't let it slide by, because this shouldn't be something that slides by.
For sure.
And this is how we help make it a better place. For those who are listening and are like, oh, well, what if what I do gets misconstrued? It never hurts to ask before taking an action.
Mm-hmm.
To ask, may I hug you? Or to ask, may I take a photo with you?
Right.
Or may I put my hand on your shoulder? Or if you're unsure, I know that there's like the hand hovering thing, like you just don't touch. Hover hand. Don't touch the shoulder, don't touch their sides. But if you're unsure and like if you feel like that's awkward, go ahead and ask.
One of the other things that I've been trying to do when I notice it is reinforcing positive habits.
Yes.
So when I get someone who comes up to me and asks if they can put their arm around me, who asks if they can hug me after a photo or something like that, I always try really hard to let them know how much I appreciate that, and that kind of behavior is, one of the kind of change we want to see. Or when I see, like, at our local con here, I mean, it's not as much of a consent issue, but like in our green room we try to have like a congeniality award to watch those who are going out of their way to treat cosplayers with kindness and respect. And I love that we have events and things that will recognize the good in people's behavior and not just the negative.
Very good advice.
Yeah. One of the things I saw listed also was, like, if you are a person with privilege, make sure you're using that privilege to support others. Like, if you are a male cosplayer with female friends who cosplay and you notice that they've been having a lot of issues, be supportive of them, if they are if you see an incident happening, be there and step in, make sure people know that behavior is not okay and that you don't condone it. Yes. And it's definitely not something that just happens to female cosplayers. I have witnessed it myself happening to male friends, and it's frustrating. And just make sure, like, no matter who you are, that if something's happening to your friends, you need to do your best to be there for them.
Yes.
Even if it's just there as a witness, even if you're just getting your phone out and being like, hey, I'm recording this isn't okay, you need to go. There are passive ways as well.
And help those who you see are struggling to find, you be their friends, or, find, not just you be their friends, but find more friends for them. Like the person from PopCon, I took him around and was like, by the way, you're a person of color, here's some person of color cosplayers that I know. Get to know them, they're great.
Yeah.
Also, again, if you guys ever have anyone bothering you, let me know.
Mercedes will personally destroy them on the internet.
I like being salty and being like, dude, you're wrong, and I will praise you. I'll go and I'll comment on all your stuff and be like, look, this is awesome. That's awesome. You're amazing. I prefer that side of it. I actually don't get bored from that one. I do get bored after 5 minutes of trolling someone. Sometimes it's fun. Sometimes I'm like, they're not worth your time. Most of the time, they're not worth your time. They're not even worth my time. And especially, don't let them be worth your time.
No, it's super true.
Say bye and block them.
If we seem
go find good friends.
If we seem really crazy talkative and passionate about this topic, it's because we are, and we've both experienced the negative aspects of it, and we don't want other cosplayers to have to go through that.
Yep.
So having people that you can go to if you're struggling with it, of course, come to us, come to your friends, come to staff members of the convention, having a network of people that you can go to if there are problems is really important.
The biggest thing you take away from this is you are beautiful, listener.
Aww.
You are gorgeous. You also are, Pennon. This is your body. Rock it.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't let anyone get you down. And if you really need, chat me up. I will praise you to the ends of the earth. I will find all those good things about you that you are having a hard time seeing because someone said something mean. I will say all the nice things for you, because you deserve it. You're awesome. You're beautiful. I love you guys.
We love you guys.
We love you so much.
So yeah. that's been our topic for this week. Rather than a horror story, before we get into horror stories,
I was gonna say this whole thing is a horror story. We should do opposite of horror stories on this one, maybe.
I do have a horror story actually to share about this particular topic. But first, we actually had one of our first emails asking advice. I'm going to kind of skim over it because it's kind of a long email. This one comes from Evie Ann, sorry if I said that wrong, aka Zerelixon. Said, first of all, I just want to tell you I really enjoy your podcast. It's a lot of fun to listen to your stories and experiences and to get a bit of inside view of how the cosplay community is on your side, of the world, as I'm from Norway myself. You asked, I know, that's really cool. You asked in your latest episode if we could tell a bit about our first judging experience. And since I was a judge for the first time just a few months ago, I thought I could chime in as it left a bit of a bittersweet taste in my mouth. They've been cosplaying since 2006, never really been part of any competitions. So basically the event, I lost my place. The point of the contest was to show what cosplay is, both to those attending and to the press, and it's rather heavily media covered event in Norway. So the reason she ended up judging was because it was a very dear friend that had arranged the cosplay contest. She wanted someone she knew on the judging team. In addition to me, there were 2 other judges, a rather new friend of mine with amazing cosplay skill and a lot of experience from joining competitions, and her boyfriend who has both won and judged major competitions both nationally and internationally. Besides these 2, it's pretty needless to say I felt rather unworthy with the title of being judge. Despite this, the whole experience was a lot of fun. The contestants were a lot of fun to talk with. It was amazing to see their work up close and on stage and watch their performances. However, after the contest was over, the prizes had been announced, and I started getting messages and questions from the contestants on why they didn't win. In addition to being a judge, I worked full-time on this event as part of the crew, and there were many people who were asking for constructive criticism, and we simply didn't have time to give them that, and we explained it to them as kindly as possible. Feeling rather bad about this, I decided I would write a general constructive criticism on the Discord channel where the contestants could read it and perhaps be able to see themselves what part of it applied to them. But the day after the event was over, the channel was taken down, and they could never get back to them. Thanks to all this, I'm afraid that the contest might have left a bad taste with some of the contestants, and many were applying with their first costumes. I just hope this experience didn't turn them off from the thought of wanting to continue cosplaying. The bottom line of this is that I would love to judge again, and also join a lot more contests, starting from this summer, to gain some more experience. I'm sure I could have done it better, and I learned a lot, but what would you do in a situation like this?
So that's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
And
so
I love that they are asking about this, because that right there is the first step to becoming a better judge.
Oh, definitely.
And first of all, I wanted to address the that feeling of being not worthy to judge never goes away. That just never goes away. But on the point of okay, you've got contestants that are asking, why didn't I win? Mm-hmm. I personally on that one find that I like it when contestants come up afterwards and they ask, what can I do to be better? I love that. Mm-hmm. But if they're coming up going, why didn't I win? I have seen that happen before, and I've actually gotten after people for doing that.
Yeah, there's a huge difference with the intent that comes from asking, how can I improve versus why didn't I win?
Yes.
One's coming from a place of indignation and anger, and one is coming from a place of genuinely wanting to improve. I think in the competitions that Mercedes and I have judged for, most of the time we'll be approached by people afterwards who want constructive criticism, and I won't give it out unless people ask me for it. If you're asking me specifically for constructive criticism, I will give it to you. So sometimes after a competition, if I don't have time to address it, I will give them my card and say, I'm happy to discuss it with you. I may not have time right now, but I'll go over it with you. Some conventions will actually do a Q&A after the masquerade or the next day that will let people who competed actually talk one-on-one with the judges or ask questions of the judging panel about what happened during the event and what they agreed or disagreed with, things like that.
Yes.
I think feedback is hugely important with events like that, because these newbies who
with those feedback panels, it may not even be why didn't I win? It could just be because there was something with the contest that needs feedback. Uh-huh. And so having a feedback panel is very helpful, because then the people who are running the contest can look at that and go, oh, maybe we could have run that better. And it's not necessarily that they're like, oh, we don't know why we didn't win. It could just be that something was run really poorly and it gave them a bad taste. And that could be it.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, as far as, like, giving that feedback, yes, I only give it to those who ask, because, like, those who don't ask for feedback don't want it or need it, you know? Like, I don't want to be given feedback on something that I'm like, I
know what I did wrong on this.
Yeah,
you know?
I know what I did wrong, yeah.
So I don't always ask for feedback either. But yeah, overall, in summary here, I guess what we're saying is, as far as feeling more confident as a judge, the more you try to build your skill base and the more you try to improve yourself, the more confident you're going to feel on a judging panel. So I would just say, keep trying to learn new things, keep trying to, like, research new ways that other people are building things, so that when someone comes up to you in a costume contest and says, I made it this way, you're not kind of in the dark about what that means. And then as far as feedback, just try to have, like, alternate forms of contact, so that if people are asking you can direct them to it. If the convention itself isn't offering that, try to give them other means that you can give them feedback.
I've had coffee with contestants after
nice.
A contest sometime. Well, once. But, like, just go and talk with someone.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun. You make new friends that way. And contestants can, like, for me personally, like, I would always go and ask, you know, when you were judging me, I would always go and ask Pat and be like, what did I do wrong? Melissa, what can I do better?
And also, make sure you're giving them a big old bite of that constructive criticism sandwich. Like, make sure you're giving them both the good things that they're doing that you appreciate, that you know that they're doing in the right direction, along with the things that you think they can improve on.
Yes.
The way you phrase it and things like that can make a huge difference in how much that person wants to return. Because if you, like we were saying earlier in the episode, if you're saying, you know, you did that helmet wrong, or that helmet's the wrong size, it doesn't help. It doesn't make it better. If you say, like, well, you can actually look into these options for how to resize it, or you can use this as a base to fit better, like, to your head.
Hey, your helmet looks awesome. The paint job on it is incredible. It's a little sized off, but if you wanted to try something different, here's something. If they asked for that kind of advice, I would always start with a compliment, give a criticism, and then I always end on a compliment, because it's just nice to end on a positive note.
It is.
You don't want to send them away going, you know, you want to send them away thinking about stuff, but feeling good about themselves. You want them to feel like rock stars. It's
true.
Because they are all rock stars.
So I hope that answered your question, and I wish you good luck with that.
What was their name again?
It looks like it was Evie? I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Evian, aka Zerelixon.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your question, and it was awesome.
Yeah. So, I do have a horror story I want to share.
Okay. Go.
It specifically relates to our whole cosplay is not consent thing, and usually when I tell this story, I have to do it, like, in front of people, because I have to, like, I have to show what happened. And also I apologize in advance to people listening, because I'm about to, like, molest your eardrums. Yeah.
Talk about consent now.
I know. That's why I'm giving the warning ahead of time.
Okay.
So, looking back on this, before I even start the story, I really wish that I had not felt quite so afraid to report or say anything, because this is really a situation that I should have. And looking back on it, haha, it's funny, but happening to me, I was terrified, you know? So, anyway, here we go. So, I was dressed as Sailor Moon, shock, from the Sailor Moon musicals. So that means it's like this really flashy, ridiculously sparkly version of the characters.
Sparkles!
Yes. And my friend and I were walking down the halls of a particular convention, and we had gotten a few pictures and things, and this guy came up to us. And not that it matters a ton what he was dressed as, but he was cosplaying as Roy Mustang in a miniskirt with kitty ears, and
sounds
awesome. Kind of had the smell of haven't showered all weekend and things like that.
That's less awesome.
But, you know, being the friendly person that I am, when they asked if I could give them a hug, I said, of course. So they hugged me, but they didn't hug, like, you know how you go, like, over or under for a hug? They didn't do that kind of hug. They did the hug that, like, went around my arms, like my upper arms, so I couldn't really lift them. And, like, because I hugged them around their waist, and so they hugged around my shoulders and, like, pinned my arms to my sides. And, like, it was the most awkward hug. And then they didn't let go. And I was kind of left going, like, and it had gone way past the point where the hug was, like, polite or nice. It went in fully into awkward. And this guy completely...
Time your hugs if you're not sure. Time them.
Like, 1, 2, 3, pat, we're done. No, he was still hugging me after, like, a good 10 seconds. And then he leans over into my ear, and he goes, prepare your ears, he goes,
oh no! That's so awkward.
Followed by, I'm gonna be Tuxedo Mask later. And then he let go.
Nope.
And walked away.
That's a big
and I was mortified. I turned to my friend and I'm like, we are changing right now. And you know, it was horrible. It was horrible. Like, looking back on it is funny, but like that is not okay. Like, so that's my horror story. I have also I got a couple others I can share about consent because they are no-nos. So I had a group of friends that was doing a Naruto cosplay group, and we were doing Team 7, so Sakura, Sasuke, Naruto. And we had done these, like, punk rock versions. It was fun, and, like, as cosplaying the one girl in the group, I was fully prepared for everyone who wanted to ship the two boys together, and I was like, that's fine, you know. The people cosplaying them were a couple anyway, and, like, it didn't bother me at all. So whenever we'd pose together, because I was the tall one of the group, I would kind of crouch down low, so I didn't look like I was towering over them and whatnot.
You're so tall!
I am. But, like, you know, as the, like, not in a coupled character, I was used to not, like, getting as much attention with these particular set. Mm-hmm. So when someone wanted to get a photo with our group and specifically wanted to stand by Sakura, I was like, oh, cool! They like Sakura. That's awesome. And so we posed and took a photo, and immediately after the photo, the girl grabbed my boob, squeezed it, and said, Sakura's my favorite. And I'm like, why is this okay? That's not okay. Like,
that is very not
okay. It's not okay. I don't care if Sakura's your favorite. That doesn't make it okay to grab my boobs. So yeah.
Yes, even if it's your favorite character, still be polite.
Well, like, even if it was your favorite, would you do that to your favorite character? Sakura would punch you in the face. She would punch you flying across the continent if you did that. Like, So, there's my angry, annoyed horror stories, and I'm sorry to have assaulted your eardrums with them.
To end on a positive note and a positive example of...
I need it.
Because sometimes when people will cosplay characters that are jerks, and then they think that they have to act like that jerk, and that there's a right way to do that. Actually, you don't actually have to be a jerk to cosplay a jerk. So at Denver Comic-Con, as I was running around, I ran into I didn't really run into him. He was just strutting by being Gaston. Like, it was beautiful. Like,
oh, what a guy.
Right? Oh, what a guy, that Gaston. Don't make me sing. So he's strutting by, and I'm just like, oh, that's so cool. He's got the character down. He looks great. So I shout out, hey, Gaston, take a selfie with me. And he comes up. He's like, oh, I'll take one with you. And he's all, count to 3 before taking the selfie. And I was like, okay. And so, like, I hold up my phone, and I go 1, 2, and when I say 3, he puts his hand in front of my face in this big thumbs up, and I take the photo. And it was beautiful. Like, and then he just walks away. And, like, it was hilarious.
I like it.
It was, like, technically, like, a rude thing, but it was a funny thing. Like, it was very comedic. Like, even as he was strutting away, one of my friends yells out, pose for me! And he just quickly poses, and then he keeps going on. And then on Reddit, some people were actually sharing stories of running into this guy, and, like, someone shouted at him, I love your cosplay, Gaston! And he replied, I do too. Like, he was being Gaston without being a complete jerk. Like, it was wonderful.
I like it.
Yeah. So there's a good example of how to cosplay someone who's a douche and not be a douche.
And not be a douche. Thank you.
Yes, so positive ending note.
Oh, good. Good. So, I guess wrapping up, we will say if you guys want to share a horror story or experience you've had at a convention, want some advice, if you guys want us to cover a specific topic, hit us up. Also, if you want us to come to a convention near you, please talk to your local convention staffers and suggest that you want the Cosplay Stitch and Steam panel to come. And you can contact us. You can contact us on our email at cosplaystitchandseam@gmail.com, on our website, cosplaystitchandseam.com, or on the Facebook group, Cosplay Stitch and Seam.
Yes, come join the group. We have lots of fun discussions on there.
We do, and we usually want to hear from you guys before each new episode, so just watch out for those discussion groups if you want a shout out on the podcast, things like that.
We love promoting
people. We'd like to thank Macy Roberts for her music,
for
our intro,
music
and sound editing.
Sound editing by David Jeffress.
Yeah, of Dungeons and Chills. So check out that podcast as well.
As I say
dabs, yeah.
Now you all know.
The most profesh.
Most profesh. We are the most profesh group.
Awesome. Yeah, is that everything?
I think that's everything.
I think that's it. So until next week, keep your sewing machine close and your seam ripper closer. Bye, guys.
Love it.